Hey guys, PK here. I just saw that the big four banks are now all completely in unison, predicting that interest rates will fall in 2024. CBA is predicting three sets of interest rate falls starting, I think, in August. They're like the most dovish or bullish, you could say. Then I think it's Westpac who are predicting two interest rate falls starting in, I want to say, September or August. Either way, it's in the second half of this year. And then NAB and ANZ are only predicting one interest rate fall in quarter four. So it's the first time that all four banks have been fairly in sync with their predictions. Hello, this is my son. We're just at the airport. We actually just came back from the Australian Open. This is kind of like our family ritual. We go every year. This year it was great to see Djokovic again. Last night we saw the Shelton Mana game, and yeah, I reckon Shelton is incorrectly portrayed in the media. Seems pretty nice guy. He was super nice to the crowd, saying hello to the kids and waving at them and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, I digress. The Australian Open was a vibe this year. It was awesome. Anyone who's not been, I highly recommend it, even if you're not a tennis fan. All right, so interest rates, are they going to fall this year? In this video I'll talk about it a little bit, but also because we're likely to see more of a downward interest rate cycle over the next 12 to 18 months than upwards. What should your next three steps be to buy your first or next investment property? Your next three steps. All right, I just want to say as well, I mean, just because or just because the big four banks are saying that interest rates will fall, that doesn't actually mean they're going to fall. Of course, banks have this kind of agenda, I don't want to say agenda, but they have this kind of motivation to hype people up. I'm not saying that they do that, but they obviously make money by writing loans. When people get mortgages, they make more money. That's just the banking business model. Now, I do think interest rates are more likely to go down than up. All four banks are saying they're not going to go up anymore. We've peaked at 4.35. I want to also admit that I thought interest rates would peak at 4%. I did a video on that like a year ago. I was wrong, perhaps by about 0.35%, but I think a lot of this is political. I think perhaps interest rates have been lifted too much, and the lag effects of the rate quantitative tightening cycle are going to see unemployment rise quite dramatically. I did a video on that last week on how that will impact property markets. Go check that out. But I saw yesterday the IMF also, as if, Australia is reportable or accountable to the IMF, but they advised or recommended that the RBA and the government reduce fiscal stimulus and continue to increase rates. But the IMF, we're not Sri Lanka here, we're not like a third world country in dire straits. We don't need to listen to the IMF. It's not like our economy is buoyant because they're giving us like charity loans, okay? So the IMF can say whatever they want. They're traditionally quite wrong. But nonetheless, I think there's some truth in it. I think we need to be coy and cautious. I don't think we can start just dropping interest rates as fast as potentially the Fed might do in 2024. 6 times they're predicted to reduce interest rates. Of course, it's a fool's game. I've learned to predict interest rates down to the exact basis point by the end of 6 months or by the end of 12 months. But one thing is for sure, over the next 12 to 18 months, there's a 99.9% likelihood that they'll be lower than they are now. Definitely overseas, definitely in the US, but also in Australia. Exactly when that happens, by how much, it might only be one set of interest rate cuts. It might happen early 2025, who knows? But they're likely to go down and unlikely to go up anymore. So if you hear that, and of course do your own due diligence, you might come to the conclusion that, I actually want to invest in my next property. So here's 3 steps that you need to take. And just a quick spoiler, none of this is about suburb selection, because I feel that so many newbies, they just go into, I want to be a property investor, what's the hotspot? That's not what you should do. Step 1, okay, go to a mortgage broker. And by the way, I've done videos on how to find good mortgage brokers. You don't need to have one in your local vicinity. Find the best mortgage broker for you interstate, anywhere, everything's done virtually, and get an understanding of your borrowing capacity. That's number one. And maybe 1A or 1B is don't max out your borrowing capacity if it's like 7, 8,000, 100,000, 900,000. Try leave some spare for your next property if you want to build wealth, build a portfolio. That's number one. You don't need a pre-approval, by the way, initially. For strategy purposes, just get an understanding of how much you could borrow. Now, number two, what you should do is you should see if you can understand with your partner, by yourself, with your business, whoever you're investing with, or whatever your family situation is, what your long-term goals are. So you need to model this out, okay? It doesn't make sense just to have an arbitrary goal of 10 properties in 10 years or $100,000 passive income like everyone has a goal. You actually have to make it like practical and realistic, and also aspirational, so you have something to aim towards. But that needs to be done through the conjunction of a mortgage broker and an accountant, okay? And so therefore you need to understand, all right, in my income level and my risk appetite, how many properties can I buy over what period of time? What's the frequency or cadence of those purchases to maximize my borrowing capacity so I don't cap out just after 1 or 2 properties? You know, how much yield should each of them have? Okay, over the long term, which of these properties am I keeping forever versus which am I selling after they've doubled, tripled, or whatever to retire the debt? Because you don't want to be, living in retirement with debt. You don't want to be living off equity or a line of credit. That's an old school strategy. You want to be stress-free, no debt. And that's what property can help you achieve, but you need to model that out. What budget, what price properties are you going to buy? Are they going to be one at $350, the next one at $500? And that kind of happens, that sort of journey, including lending strategy, which is like, how do I maximize my borrowing capacity? You don't know that. If you go to a bank, ANZ, CBA, they're not going to help you with that. You need a professional. I'm not that, by the way. A mortgage broker is that. They're going to help you with that, but you need to manage the mortgage broker, and so that you need to work with an accountant and a mortgage broker to build this long-term strategy on paper in a financial model. And that's kind of where I help out, give you those people and help you with the intel, the tools to really do that properly. But even without me, that is something you need to do. People rush to suburb selection, but if you're rushing to suburb selection, you haven't done this groundwork. It's like putting up the timber in a house without having put the slab on. It's like, where are you putting the timber? Why are you putting the timber up that way? You need to know how big is that floor plan, what is the floor plan, how much concrete you need for the slab. There's the announcement. So those are the first 2 steps. I know the second one's a little bit maybe complex or confusing, but it's really important. I don't think you guys should over step that or miss that, okay? And then the third one, and none of these are sexy, by the way, and that's why I'm doing this video, because less than 1% of people do this. The third step, even before suburb selection, is then understanding, all right, if I can, buy 3, 4, 5, 6 properties over the course of 10, 15 years or sooner or later, and if my goal is realistic to achieve 50K, 100K, 150K passive income in X, Y years time, then should I buy these properties in my own name? Should I split them up with my spouse or partner? Should I, from the very get-go, buy them all in a single trust? Or if I know I'm going to buy this many properties around Australia to diversify and not be hit by a land tax bill because all of my properties are in the single state, then should I set up multiple trusts to buy different properties in different trusts? Maybe that's a borrowing capacity maximizer technique, by buying a property in a different trust or entity every single time. These things, first of all, you need knowledge, education, and the tools. Then you need the team, and then you need to manage the team. Those are the 3 steps: education and tools, team, and then the knowledge to manage that team. Of course, in the mentorship program, of course, I provide that, but many of you already know that. Many of you can already do that. Many of you already have the knowledge, the tools, perhaps the Excel tools and softwares. Many of you maybe already have the team. There's so many Facebook groups you can find. Good accountants, good mortgage brokers yourself for free. Maybe you know how to manage that team yourself. But if you don't, because you don't have that team, you don't have that sort of mindset, you don't have the people there to help you, you're brand new, then reach out for help. Okay, so the structuring is very important. Okay, that needs to happen before you buy a property. It happens before you select a suburb. Okay, so notice I have not even talked about suburb selection. We're doing all this groundwork, you know, even before we get to that. And then kind of like a 3B or step 3A or whatever, then you create the short-term strategy. Okay, so for my first or next investment property, you know, what yield do I want? What budget? What's my risk appetite? And you can't just say I have a low risk appetite, high risk appetite. You need to know what that means. There's gradients, there's actually tiers, there's rationales. It's not a binary thing or a, you know, subjective thing in a lot of cases. And then also, am I passive or active? Do I want to buy something with a granny flat potential? Do I want to be able to develop or subdivide in the future? Or do I just want to buy, set and forget? Maybe your strategy changes over time as you learn and evolve. Okay, so maybe you want to buy something with potential, but you don't want to do it straight away. Once again, all of this comes with education. So those are the 3 steps, guys, and I really want you to start by understanding the macroeconomics. Of course, I've done like hundreds of videos on that, but overall, to summarize, yes, interest rates are more likely to come down than up, but be cautious. Don't get wrapped up in the media headlines that rates cuts coming or rates going up. You know, take a chill pill, just be relaxed. And then the 3 steps, okay? And these 3 steps take time. Don't rush out. There's no points for coming first, okay? Yes, a lot of you have missed out on the best suburbs in Perth. There's still other suburbs. There's other suburbs in other states. There's always a good time to buy a property. Don't have FOMO. That's not good for you. That's not good for me. That's not good for anyone. All right, and then implement those 3 steps that I mentioned. If you missed them, please go back and watch them again. It'll be really good for you. Yeah, that's what I wanted to cover in this video. Hopefully it brought value. If it did, hit the subscribe button, give it a like, give it a thumbs up. And yeah, we're just at Melbourne Airport, flying back to the Gold Coast, back home. My son's starting school this in term 1 in reception. The first week is this coming week now, so we're super excited. But yeah, I just felt like this week was so awesome. I love tennis, and yeah, it was just a joy. And the vibe is something else at Melbourne Park. I highly recommend you get there for the second week if you live in Melbourne. My name's PK. Thank you for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. See ya.